Silas, also referred to as Silvanus in some Bible translations, was a prominent figure among first-century Christians and worked alongside the Apostle Paul in spreading the good news. While the Bible itself does not offer an expansive biography in the same way it does for Paul or Peter, Jehovah's Witnesses glean a great deal of insight about Silas from the book of Acts and various references in the Christian Greek scriptures. Below is a comprehensive overview of what Jehovah's Witnesses, as reflected on jw.org and their publications, emphasize regarding Silas's background, travels, and significance in the early Christian congregation. 1. His role in the early Christian congregation. According to Acts chapter 15 verse 22, Silas was one of the leading men among the brothers in the congregation at Jerusalem. This implies that Silas had already proven himself as a mature Christian disciple, someone entrusted with responsibilities and recognized for his faithfulness. Jehovah's Witnesses understand the Jerusalem congregation at that time to be the central hub, or governing body, that oversaw the expanding Christian ministry. So when Acts 15 describes Silas as a leading brother, it underscores that he was deeply involved in the administrative and spiritual decisions made by that governing group. 2. Mission to Antioch. Silas, along with Judas, called Barsabbas, was sent by the Jerusalem elders to accompany Paul and Barnabas to Antioch. Acts chapter 15 verse 22-27. Their mission was to deliver a letter clarifying the decisions made by the apostles regarding which Mosaic requirements still applied to Gentile Christians. This letter addressed issues like abstaining from blood, things sacrificed to idols, and sexual immorality. Acts chapter 15 verse 28-29. According to Jehovah's Witnesses, Silas's willingness to travel and relay this letter highlights not only his reliability but also how Jehovah's Holy Spirit guided the early Christians to maintain unity despite cultural and religious differences. 3. A trusted messenger and prophet. Acts chapter 15 verse 32 describes Silas, together with Judas Barsabbas, as someone who encouraged the brothers with many words and strengthened them. This verse highlights his ability to teach and exhort. Jehovah's Witnesses emphasize that Silas was considered a prophet, in the sense of being an inspired teacher or proclaimer of God's will, not merely someone who predicts the future. As such, Silas's main job was to explain and apply scriptural principles, building up the faith of fellow believers. 4. Joining the Apostle Paul. Shortly after completing their mission in Antioch, Paul chose Silas as his traveling companion. Acts chapter 15 verse 40. This marked the beginning of Silas's direct involvement in Paul's second missionary journey. Barnabas had parted ways with Paul, and Silas effectively took Barnabas's place. For Jehovah's Witnesses, Silas's selection reaffirms his role as a committed minister of the good news who was flexible and ready to serve wherever the need arose. 5. The Philippian imprisonment. One of the most memorable accounts involving Silas is found in Acts chapter 16 verses 19-40. Paul and Silas were in Philippi when they encountered fierce opposition. They were beaten with rods, unlawfully thrown into prison, and their feet were put in stocks. In the middle of the night, instead of lamenting their situation, Paul and Silas began praying and singing praises to God. Jehovah's Witnesses often highlight this episode as a powerful display of faith under persecution. Despite severe trials, they maintained a joyful spirit, and this had a profound effect on those around them, most notably the jailer, who eventually became a believer himself. After an earthquake that miraculously shook open the prison doors, the jailer asked, "Sirs, what must I do to get saved?" Acts chapter 16 verse 30, New World Translation. Paul and Silas taught him the Christian truth, and he and his household accepted the message. This account underlines a key teaching point used by Jehovah's Witnesses. Faithfulness under trial can be a powerful witness, leading sincerely disposed people to embrace the good news. 6. Ministry in Thessalonica and Berea. After leaving Philippi, Paul and Silas traveled to Thessalonica, Acts chapter 17 verses 1-9. There, they preached in the local synagogue, and some Jews and a large crowd of Greeks became believers. However, opposition forced them to leave Thessalonica. They moved on to Berea, where they again preached, and many Bereans received the word with the greatest eagerness of mind. Acts chapter 17 verse 10-11. Jehovah's Witnesses highlight the role of Silas in this preaching work, noting the unity and cooperation he had with Paul. This scriptural example supports the principle of working closely with spiritual partners in the ministry and emphasizes the importance of verifying teachings by examining the scriptures, much like the noble-minded Bereans did. 7. Later ministry and recognition. Further references to Silas in the New Testament appear under the name Silvanus. Jehovah's Witnesses believe Silvanus is the same person as Silas, a variation in name perhaps reflecting the Latinized or Greek form. 1 Thessalonians 1:1 mentions Paul and Silvanus and Timothy, together as co-authors or co-senders of the letter to the congregation in Thessalonica. This demonstrates Silas's continuing involvement and good reputation in the ministry long after those initial travels. Additionally, 2 Corinthians chapter 1 verse 19 references the preaching of Paul and Silvanus and Timothy about the Christ, indicating Silas's unwavering dedication. Peter also mentions Silvanus, Silas, in 1 Peter chapter 5 verse 12, noting that he regarded Silvanus as a faithful brother. Jehovah's Witnesses see this as a further expression of trust Silas enjoyed